We got something really special for you today. Today is a live coaching call. So this is very different. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to be on this particular aspect of the show. We've got a very special guest today, Renee Bacon, who was incredible during this interview. If you're listening to this, I want to give you a nugget to pay attention to as we talk. This conversation, this coaching call is for you if you have struggled, just like I have, jumping thing to thing to thing. Some call it shiny object syndrome. Some call it a variety of pursuits. You are a Renaissance man or woman. It doesn't matter what you call it. You're not focused and you're not pursuing the same thing frequently and powerfully. You're jumping and moving so often that nothing seems to hold your attention. If that's you, I want you to take out your notepads, as long as you're not driving, and listen to this conversation with Renee. We had some really solid breakthroughs about what needs to happen in order to understand why the call for intensity in this big, large push is actually feeding the desire to keep jumping. So you may be caught in this pattern. I know I have been caught in this pattern where I had a lot of pursuits and a lot of different directions going at the same time. They were contradictory. I was getting burned out. I was getting frustrated. And the consequence of this is really, really high. Today, we're going to help you make that shift so that you don't have to go through it. Renee was brave enough to share her story as a mom of 4 older kids. She's got 15 years of teaching under her belt, which is amazing. I love pouring into teachers that have given back to so many people. She's been a real estate agent for 5 years and is on the quest to figure out what is bigger for her. And we'll talk about how the quest for bigger can often hold us up from actually making progress. So we'll get to break into that. She's got master's degrees. And I know that teaching was eroding who she was. And maybe your career, your profession is too. This is designed to help you take a big leap into entrepreneurship if that's something that you do so choose. Also to help you reframe what's actually going on so that you stop bouncing thing to thing. She did such a great job as she looks to expand who she is and how she shows up and get out of her own way. A big, big warm welcome to Renee Bacon. All right, we are live with Renee here. I'm always honored to spend this kind of time. And Renee, I know I've gotten to see some of your journey and I know you've gone through a lot of change. So I'm so grateful that you're here. Just give us a little bit of background because you've recently made some big transitions.
Yes, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Aaron. So I was a teacher for 15 years. I have 4 kids, so very busy up until this point. My kids are getting older, moving out. I decided to resign from teaching in August. I actually have been a real estate agent for 5 years, so I knew I had something to transition into. But at this point, it's been 5 months, and I feel like I'm a bit stuck. Like I'm doing a lot of work, but I don't know if it's useful. I kind of like I'm spinning my wheels. I'm sitting home working from home all day and it's pretty lonely. So I'm just trying to find my path and where I'm best suited to go at this point in my life.
Yeah. Like a Porsche stuck behind a school bus.
Yeah.
Like, I got an engine, but I'm stuck here waiting for stop signs.
Kind of, yeah.
Do you miss teaching?
No. I miss my subject matter. I taught science for all those years. So I miss the topic. I like the kids. They kept me on my toes, but I don't miss the day-to-day grind. No.
Yeah. What is it about science that you love?
I just find it extremely interesting. I've loved it since I was a little kid. Love animals. I love outer space. It just blows my mind. It really, I don't know what I like about it. It's just, I think it's because I'm not interacting with humans. It's just a very non-confrontational topic that I can dive into and not worry about any outside influence, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I'm a big outer space nerd in some ways. I wouldn't say that I have the capacity or bandwidth to dig in as much as I'd like, but those small nuggets of wisdom that exist in science are so far from my personality that I can appreciate people that are so diligent and disciplined to set up experiments and study and practice. Way beyond me, but
Yeah,
wow,
for sure.
It's pretty fascinating. Those two fields have changed a lot in the last 5 years too.
Yeah, a lot of discoveries.
So you go from teaching to real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Passion play or necessity play?
A little bit of both. I do love real estate. I do like helping people and forming those like relationships and getting to the end and helping them move to their next stage in life. I really like walking through houses. I like numbers, so I'm good with that mortgage side of things too. Like I like a lot of components. There's parts I really, really don't like though, which is like the prospecting and the calling people all the time and what I feel like is bothering them constantly. I don't like being a salesperson. So that part has been difficult to adjust to and actually do. But there's good and bad about it. And that's why I do it because right now there's more good than negative. So
yeah. When you were transitioning out, what was the big dream? What was initially the pull?
The big dream is to live life on my schedule and not on someone else's. I have lacked discipline throughout my life. And so going to school and having a bell every hour to change kids, and that kept me on track. Like that's almost the appeal of teaching middle school. But at the same time, it felt like such an entrapment. Like I just couldn't escape and I was always beholden to someone else and their schedule. So I like having that freedom here as I work from home, getting up and doing what I want when I want, calling people when I want. I really love having that freedom. But at the same time, it's hard because I fall into my old habits of not using my time wisely. So
when you think of discipline, how would you define discipline? Like you got kids. How do you help them understand discipline?
So my kids are wonderful. They're growing into great adults, but I feel like discipline is doing what you need to be doing or what you should be doing without making excuses. So I can't stand the complaining aspect of what I hear a lot nowadays. And I complain too. So it's not just them, but it's keeping promises to yourself. And that's what I've really started to hone in on. I started 75 Hard January 1st. And so,
Nice.
Thank you. 22 days in, it's going well. Not easy, but thank God I don't have to go to a job or else not sure how it would work out. But it's really, teaching my kids, like, you're going to have to do the things you don't want to do. You have a bigger goal. You got to keep focus on that. There's little steps that you have to take pretty much every day to get to your goals. And, just don't let others bring you down and keep pushing.
I'm excited to follow along that journey. I am candidly not a big fan of 75 Hard because I don't know many people that do 76 Hard. However, if it's got the right utility, then it might be a good catalyst for some new habits. You mentioned that your communication to them is like, we've got this larger goal. What are some of your larger goals? And when you think about this year, what are you targeting? Ultimately,
I would love to both have a purpose in life because I don't feel like I have a true purpose yet. That motivates me to get up every day. I would also love to have that time freedom and eventually financial freedom where I don't have to work every day if I have something else going on. I don't have to right now as an agent, but like I have to do it often. It just takes up a lot of time if I do it right. So ultimately, financial freedom, time freedom, but be in a better mental space with where my life, the last half of my life is heading.
If you had to choose between purpose and financial freedom, what would you take?
That's a hard one. The harder one in my eyes is purpose. The more meaningful one is purpose, which is harder in my eyes. I often take the easier route. And so that's what I feel like I'm doing right now. So yeah, purpose for sure in the long run.
Cool. This is good. We're getting somewhere good.
Okay.
When you think of motivating you in the past, what has worked? What's been successful when it comes to like true motivation?
I've always done better when it's like all or nothing, which I know everyone says like that's not effective. You got to like give yourself grace and take small steps and blah, blah, blah. But like the 75 hard thing, I've had trouble like sticking to any kind of healthier eating routine for years. And this is actually, because it's like all or nothing, it actually works. So I feel like I need the stakes to be high in order to be successful. Like it can't be willy-nilly. It can't be small baby steps. I just regress. So
very interesting. What I find fascinating about just like humans in general, and even as I look in the mirror, I am always surprised by my own like rationality, especially as someone that knows like science and understands it. Right. I remember having a biology teacher who said the reason we have science is to search for truth. And at the time, I was in middle school, and that's the line that stood out from my ninth grade biology teacher or whatever. But
right.
What seemed interesting about that is you could build a process to find that. And as probably more of an artist than a scientist, that concept is really interesting. And the reason I point that out is there's some interesting points that I'm hearing are opposing ideas. And I want to help you through what those opposing ideas are. When I hear stuck, what I hear is I'm in a corner and neither direction works for me. And as we go through today, I think that will be a good visual for you to hold is I'm in a corner and left doesn't feel good and right doesn't feel good. And what I've noticed about our work, and we've done this with a lot of people, is that when we're in the corner and left and right feel bad, it does not matter how bad the corner feels. We'll stay in the corner.
Comfortable.
So, yeah, and often comfortable suffering. That's the real crux of it, is that we'll just stay there. And I've done it, and I will always hold that truth and mirror up to myself, is that a lot of times we justify and make excuses for the corner.
Right.
When we're just stuck at a junction that doesn't make sense to us yet. So my intention is to help you see a third option or to see other options as we go.
Sounds good.
So we got this all or nothing motivation need. Where does that come from? Were you an athlete when you were young?
Yes, I was. I was a gymnast for about 9 years. And then I went right into free sport athlete through high school. And then I got pregnant at 19, but then I continued with volleyball, and I still do races and all that good stuff.
Oh, I was a volleyball player too.
Yeah.
Great game.
Fun.
Okay. Gymnast. What were the three sports?
Track and field, so like high jump and then sprints and pole vault, and then volleyball and swimming and diving. Diving was the main one.
Interesting. Yeah, this is really fascinating. Some of these details. I'm trying to connect a lot of dots, which you've been around me enough to know that that's what I do. But what's fascinating about those sports is that volleyball is really the only one that's a team sport. Are you alone a lot? Do you feel alone in your pursuits a lot?
Yeah. Right now, yeah.
Yeah, I almost hear that in now looking back on some of the things you've shared. Is part of purpose to you also the connection?
Connection to what? To people?
Other people?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something just working from home. Even though I'm very much more of an introvert, I also feel not part of I am part of many communities. That's the crazy part. But I don't feel like it's, again, like my passion or purpose is really coming out in those communities. It's just kind of like me thinking about it constantly.
Yeah, two things stand out there. We can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. You can be in a community and feel maybe presence without feeling connected and a part of something. So we can pay some attention to that. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, not doing useful work. Help me understand what useful work means.
I feel like I'm not providing the value that I have the potential to provide. I feel like a lot of the work I do every day it's not moving the needle.
Did teaching feel like you were moving the needle?
Not really. Honestly.
Maybe a glimmer of it?
A glimmer, yeah. I think the more you work one-on-one with some kids, the more you felt you were making a difference, because there's like 34, 35 in each class. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to tell me if some of these things are experiences that you're having. So I hear, I'm not doing useful work of spinning my wheels, and, I miss science. But what I'm almost hearing is the relationships that I'm building are not in service of mutuality, because I hear that you'd like to help people and support people. If motivation is really important to you, that intensity is more valuable than consistency. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Overall, yeah.
Okay. And that if you are struggling to find purpose, that purpose exists in your work.
Yes. To a point right now, yes.
Okay, great. So let's work on those things. You mentioned also that I'm not confrontational.
No. That's my one
Can't wait to unpack
big
that.
weakness.
Well, here's the reason that these particular things are coming up. What I have seen is that we attach the word purpose and it becomes a largely magnified subject matter. It's huge, right? It's what is my life for? In many ways, that makes a very big thing almost out of touch. It makes it so significant that we wouldn't talk to it or interact with it.
Right.
It's like when you're in high school and there's someone you want to ask to the dance and you're like, no, but they're like the homecoming king or queen, or they're so intimidating, they're so attractive that you just can't go talk to them because you've inflated this thing in your mind about how it's going to go. Do you feel, if you found the thing, do you feel worthy of it? Or is that something you struggle with too?
I probably struggle with that. Yes, I would say I do, because it inhibits, I think the worthiness thing inhibits what I do as an agent and taking action on things. Like, I can learn all day about something, like I do that. But to actually take action and put myself out there, I've been better at it, but there's still some big things that I intentionally ignore because it's very uncomfortable. I don't like it.
So we've got to make a good confrontation.
Yeah.
I hear that there's a fork in the road, in a way, coming for you, right? The corner, so to say. But I want to reframe the corner and then we can start to work on it. It sounds like you've got a confrontation between old Renee and future Renee.
Yeah.
And
for sure,
some of that may be your relationship with intensity or consistency. So we'll get there in a moment. The other is with this idea of like purpose being so big that it doesn't have a shape. Namely, around this idea of like, it's got to be useful, or, I need this purpose in my life versus this purpose in the next phase or step or pursuit. Because the way you describe where you are, so feeling stuck, not doing useful work, spinning my wheels, I'm at home working all day, but I'm trying to find my path, says to me that something is preventing you from moving forward. You're moving, but it's not progress.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I thought I'd be much further along at this point.
Aha. So there's some expectations too about where you'd be.
Oh, yeah.
Does that come with frustration? What's your like emotional register lately?
I would say I'm trying to stay calm and peaceful, which is fairly easy when I'm home alone. But at the same time, I look at the end of the day and I'm just like, I'm crossing stuff off. I have everything planned out. I only get half of it done every day. So that frustrates me. And I feel like it's the same stuff I'm not doing that's probably the most important. But I can't ignore the other stuff either. I've been okay, but I was emotional yesterday because I just felt like just starting over, like scrapping the whole thing, the whole plan right now, and just starting again from step 0 and seeing where I go.
Yeah.
So I'm up and down.
Now I hear the emotion. This is good. Well, tell me like what a moment where you're like, I want to start over. Like, I'm done with this. Like, what's coming up in your mind then?
Yeah.
This is stupid. Where does it go?
Well, like, for example, yesterday I was like looking back, I'm like, so I knew this would be a very hard time to get full-time into the agent business because I've always been part-time. I haven't worried about that income, but I'm like, I've spent most of my savings at this point and things are really slow. And so I thought by this point I'd be making money somewhere else, which I have a couple like horizontal streams of income, but nothing significant. So I feel like if I don't make a sale in the next month, I'm going to have to go get a job at the restaurant down the road. Like, I just feel like I'm running out of time to really start something important. And that makes me anxious.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news. There's likely going to be a couple significant shifts that they're very simple. It's not going to be rocket science that twist this boat around.
Right.
The boat needs to turn around. And I hear where you are, and it's great. I appreciate the share of the emotion because that actually is really powerful. We can use that emotion and harness it and use that to catalyze change so that you're not stuck. I do think that the harder news is that this is all about creating a circumstance that you're familiar with, which means that this is largely self-engineered.
I believe
And as a designer, you are designing what you know because you are incapable, just like we all are, of designing what you don't know.
Right.
So my hope is today I can help you engineer something you don't know by showing it to you and then saying, okay, let's build from that position. With that?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. If I had to take a random guess, maybe it's not random at this point, but if I had to take an educated guess, I would be willing to say that if I sat down with you and interviewed you on your biography, it would be riddled with hardship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's where the pattern may exist. While that may, of course, be true, what it sounds is happening is that you are creating a condition that gives you two things reliably. Number one is intensity, and number two is difficulty through the avoidance of confrontation.
Especially the second one.
Well, let's talk about how they interlace because there's an important element here. Starting over puts you back in intensity, probably where you thrive, chaos.
Yeah.
When we're used to chaos and we're put in an environment that isn't pulling the best out of us, we'll find a way to ramp the heat up because we don't operate well without intensity.
Right.
If I if I called you and was like, hey, listen, I've got a wrecking ball and a giant excavator down the street. You got to finish your task list today, or that thing is going straight through your living room. You probably would have a much easier time getting your task list done. Is that right?
Yes. That's right.
Okay. So what we have is a dependency on intensity.
Okay.
And that circles with, I'm not going to confront because that ultimately perpetuates the intensity. If I don't confront it, it won't change because I need intensity. So think of it this way. If I spend a lot of time hanging out in a treehouse, no one can bother me. I'm alone and there's not a single sound within a mile. And then someone comes and stays in my house, stays in the treehouse with me for like 3 days. It's not going to take me very long to go bananas.
Right.
I'll go insane. Like, get out of my space. You're crowding. You've got the inverse happening where if someone is not on top of you and telling you that like chaos, intensity is happening.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, I don't know what to do.
Or I do anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. There may be a dependency on intensity, but the only way out of intensity is confrontation. Tell me what's going on through your mind right now.
So you're saying if I confront the things I don't want to do, then I can get out of the loop and not feel the pressure of the frustration that I've been feeling. Kind of like that, like do the hard things and then you won't feel like you're not getting, you're not accomplishing or moving forward.
I think that would be the classical coach response, right? Just like swallow the frog.
Right.
That's not my style.
Okay.
The pattern is likely deeper than I got to swallow the frog. I got to do the hard things first. The pattern is largely, I'm not going to do them because that keeps the intensity up really high. And as long as there's intensity, I'll move. But without intensity, there's probably a fear, probably subconscious, that you'll just be static.
Yeah.
As long as there's a dependency on intensity, think of it this way, rather than worry about the confrontation piece, as long as there's a dependency on intensity, you will do whatever it takes to keep intensity up. 75 hard is a great example. And you said, I've tried other things, but they haven't worked.
Right.
Well, this is the most intense one.
Right.
At least that I know of.
Yeah.
Aside from like signing up for a triathlon like next weekend.
Right.
The other thing that perpetuates me thinking this is that you mentioned I need the stakes to be high. I need crazy structure. Otherwise, I regress. So think of it this way. I either put myself in intense situations, all or nothing. I got to make this work or I got to go work down the street. Or I regress. So here's the corner. This is like the visual that I'll hold, right?
Okay.
You're in the corner.
Right.
On one side, you have an innate ability to make things very, very difficult, aka intensity. And on the other side, you've got regression. Which of those options sound good to you?
I don't like either of them. Exactly.
Hence why mobility is limited,
Right.
why progress is limited.
Right.
So it's this binary box that we're in that we've got to find the third route here. I think many of us get caught in this, and depending on the circumstance, it could be business, it could be personal, it could be relationships. It can exist in a lot of ways. But here's what happens: we think that we need intensity when really we don't. We don't want it. No one can manage intensity for a long, sustained period of time without some kind of consequence. Some people are willing to endure those consequences, sure. Sounds like you've hit a very near end of your rope because the consequence of intensity is starting to mount. But the other side is, well, if I'm not intense, then I'm going to go backwards.
Yeah.
You're rocking a hard place.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between.
That's true.
So help me understand other examples where you have put yourself in intensity with likely the outcome of I burned out. Because that's usually the outcome of intensity for someone that needs it to be able to move forward.
Right. Places I've experienced burnout in my life are sports, for sure. Growing up, I had 4 kids and that led to burnout. After the 3rd and 4th twins, I was like done. Going to college, I went and got 1 master's degree and then didn't want to teach, I realized. And then I went and got another one outside of teaching and just kind of hoping that might take me somewhere else eventually. But that was like, I'm done with college. I was done. Also, I would say, I don't want to get too much into this, but my marriage, probably. And then I guess right now, and teaching, like finally leaving teaching, I was at my wit's end and at the end of my rope when I finally left. Like that whole previous year, I didn't like my life. So,
okay,
that too.
So you have a history of going so aggressively into something that eventually you don't want it anymore. And you're at the junction of another one of those choices.
Right.
Right. I either need to figure this out, AKA I need to burn as hard as possible, turn on the flamethrower, or I need to leave. How many repetitions of that pattern do you think you'll need before you're like, is there a better way? Or are you there?
I think I'm pretty much there. It has not reached a critical point at this particular moment, but my frustration level is higher than it was a few months ago. And the money thing stresses me out. And I think things will pick up spring and summer as agents. But it's also not what I want to do forever.
Sure.
I don't want to be an agent for the next 30 years. So I'm just trying to find what really will be meaningful for the next, 10, 20 years. But yes, I complete that loop constantly, daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, yearly. I can see it now.
Well, here's another way to make it intense. I just want to find what I need to do for the next 10 to 20 years. It's another way to make it that's so intense.
Yeah.
Now, Renee, here's the good news, right? For you to be at a point where there's not a tremendous amount of intensity, but feel the burnout, you are at a great moment to make new choices. Phenomenal opportunity. Because what ends up happening, you can ask me how I know if you'd like, is you ride the wave of intensity, you carry it as far through, then you burn out, and then you start again. But each time you go through that cycle, the frustration gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's the same cycle, but we just get more emotional each time. And you're probably experiencing that in some ways too.
Yeah.
And again, my issue with 75 hard is not like, hey, let's have a radical readjustment to your schedule and your patterns. Like, I'm a pattern disruptor by nature. It's who does 76 hard. So you found another vehicle for, let me raise the stakes so high that I can function. But I want you to think of this like if you were, you know this from classroom, like you've got so much stimulus. You need stimulus, stim. Now, intensity is your stim. That's the addiction to the stimulus. What does the opposite look like to you? What does it look like to not have intensity? How would you describe that state?
Boredom. Because I will freely give myself, instead of sticking to my normal plan every morning, I slack like completely. I started really good after I quit teaching with the morning routine, and now I'm like wasting the first hour or two. And when I take off that pressure, I feel lazy. And I just don't do what I know I should do. And so the pressure mounts until I start doing something finally.
Beautiful. So let me paint why intensity has such an allure to you. We need to understand why, like, what is it that makes intensity so valuable? The objective of intensity here, right? This is your mental model that I'm hearing, is this is what creates production, probably gets me results, and helps me move forward.
Yeah.
And the opposite of intensity is boredom. I heard waste. I heard lazy. I don't do what I should do.
Yeah.
Interesting that that's the opposite. So I want to paint a third option.
Okay.
The opposite of intensity is not boredom, it's not waste, and it's not lazy. It's consistency. That's the opposite of intensity. Intensity is a high stimulus. It's a high energy state.
Right.
Where in order to keep it alive, you need to put in a massive amount of firewood to keep that fire burning.
Right.
It is overly consumptive, takes so much resource.
Right.
So the opposite of a high burn, low output is not no output. It's low burn, high output, right?
Right.
That's how we switch the two.
Right.
So what are some examples? Let's just think about, you could be outside experiences, could be science. If you want to use outer space or animals, I encourage you to go that route because you know them, of low consumption, high output.
I guess when I get into things that I'm really passionate about, it doesn't take a lot of energy for me to maintain a very like flow state, like they say. And I don't need that pressure on me to keep working and working for hours, running numbers, looking at houses, whatever. Like, it just comes so natural that it doesn't feel like I need the pressure put on me. So it just comes easily, and I don't even think about, should I do this? I just like to do it. Does that answer your question?
It does. Okay. It does. What are some other examples of experiences or systems where like you're not putting in a lot, but you're getting out a lot?
I would say some relationships in my life feel like that. I would say sports feels like that, even though I'm putting in a lot, but it's not a lot of pressure. It's just like fun. I love like high adrenaline experiences. Yeah, but it's like stuff that I don't do a lot of. Like it's hard to find an example in my day-to-day existence.
Case in point. What I think you'll find, especially now that we've talked about it, is your awareness has to change for the propensity, the like urge to find intensity. And intensity is like your kryptonite.
Right.
Now, it can be a good driver, but all of a sudden the kryptonite gets too close and then it weakens you.
Right.
Right. Everything in small doses, but intensity ain't a small dose.
Right.
So the consequence of intensity we need to understand. I have learned and what I have experienced through the lens of intensity, because I'm an intense person in general. And I've had to learn to really walk a different line, is that there's actually a version of you that burns and runs at a much, much different rate. So when you look at how runners train, how athletes train, most of what we were taught by coaches who were ill-informed, to say the least, though charismatic probably, was that you give 100%, so that in the game you could give 100%. While that philosophy stands logically to make sense, it actually isn't the way that athletes train. You train at 80%, and then you have a little bit extra to give. Like we have this whole like give 110%. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But if the pattern has been, hey, I'm just going to give 110% all the time, you don't have a second gear to get to.
Right.
We've got to tap into that second gear you've got. But that second gear is probably really fatigued at this point.
I don't know if does it exist? Is it there?
Aha. It does.
Okay.
But the only way that it exists right now, both gears are like overlapped, right? So imagine like a bicycle with only one gear. Like it's going to suck on an uphill when you're on that bike.
Right.
Which is probably how you feel.
Yeah.
I'm on a bike that's fine to ride like on a beachside cruise.
Right.
But when I hit the uphill, this sucks. That's when we need to change gears.
Right.
Then you can keep pedaling without your legs feeling like they've been attacked by a shark. Part of this is going to be a really big detox from intensity.
Okay.
And that will open up consistency. Here's another way to look at this. Intensity is the short game. Consistency is the long game, right? If a student came in and was like, yo, Miss Professor, can you help me get an A on this test? And you were like, Aaron, you have E's on every single test. It really doesn't matter at this point, right?
Yeah, it's happened a lot.
Intensity.
Right.
Right. And you might be like, I mean, look, I appreciate the effort here. It's a little bit misplaced at this point. Let's think bigger picture, right? It's the same kind of conversation. We've got to make consistency really appealing or intensity really costly.
Okay.
Which of those feels more aligned to you now?
I would love the intent or the consistency more appealing, but I fear it's the intensity more costly. I fear that's what it's going to take, but I feel like it's healthier to make consistency appealing.
Okay. So let's walk intensity out.
Okay.
So this path that you're on does not yield. And out of burnout, you're like, okay, I'm head down the street. I'm going to go to this restaurant. Where's the pattern go from there?
Oh, gosh. If that had to happen, that's what you're saying, right?
Yep.
I feel like if I was forced to go that route, because of my circumstances, I feel like I would probably work a little harder to get out of it quicker so that I didn't have to go back and do that work. It's not like ideal to go do that because I'm with people and that's not like always my favorite.
Yeah.
So I would work harder. I would use my time more wisely and I would stick to what I know it works best more consistently, I think. I would kind of like what I did when I was teaching. I had to be very efficient with my time doing real estate in between breaks and preps and lunches and all that. So
interesting. So you would be more intense.
Yeah.
And then what would happen?
I actually felt more accomplished when things were more intense and I got them done. Like I felt good about it. Like,
of course,
I got more
it's
done.
a good drug, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a good drug.
Yeah.
Well, let's wind the clock. So you start getting a whole lot of things done. Oh my goodness, I feel great. I'm all smiles, right? You're smiling right now, but you haven't caught the back end of the pattern yet. So then all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, I don't like doing this anymore. So what do you do with the restaurant?
I quit.
Of course. And then what happens?
I go find something else that's fast and easier to get a job at and probably no better than the restaurant, but at least it's different. And I then do my best and get burned out of that probably. And and that's what I like fear happening is that I go and jump from like low end extra job to low end extra job. Like, not that being a server is low end per se. It's just not what I want to do. I don't want to spiral down. I want to keep like walking up the staircase, and that's not going to get me there.
I'm going to raise the heat.
Okay.
Because here's what's happening. Like, the example that you're using is playful and jovial as it is, and we're going through a hypothetical, but it points to like a small amount of pain, not the reality of the situation. That cycle is way more deadly than you're giving it credit. You go to the restaurant and you work there, and it's like, I don't like this. I detest this. This is not what I want to be doing. It's not my gift to the world. It's not what I can offer. It's not the value that I can give to people. And here I am surrendering and settling. Then that's the spark to say, like, you know what? Okay, now I'm going to work extra hard in the evenings. I'm going to give up all the time that I have freely to try to build something. And at that point, once that gets enough momentum, though you have sacrificed so much to make that extra time happen, because all the things that you probably care about will go out the window at that point, the secondary intensity clause will kick in. Now I'll get rid of the restaurant because I've got this other thing happening. Well, what happens when someone that needs intensity to survive and needs intensity to like choose the thing that matters most to them, when intensity goes away? The vacuum exists. And in the vacuum, what has been the pattern?
Going backwards.
Progression.
And not forwards. Yeah.
So now you have a lot of calendar space. Now you have a lot of open time and a lot of options to get lost in. And then what is going to be necessary at that point?
Intensity, pressure.
I got to go find the drug.
Yeah. But how do you do things without the drug? Like, it just seems like, how does anyone move forward without that intensity?
Aha. That's a phenomenal question. The answer is consistency. What we're looking for is a version of you, a version of Renee that is more connected to an 80% speed than a 100% speed. Because the cost of that 20% is really, really high right now.
Right.
But right now, the like observation that you have is that the opposite of 100 is not 80, it's 0.
Right.
So we need to find what 80 looks like. And the unfortunate reality of like our mental patterns is that we don't want to see the 80. It's there. It just looks so different than you've ever seen before.
Yes. And I think I also lack confidence in myself that I can actually stick to 80. Like, doesn't seem realistic for what my track record growing up.
Your track record is a lie. Your track record is a story about your track record. Consistency is the most intentional relationship with self you can have. Can I take a baby step? And then a baby step. And then a baby step. And then a baby step. That's all it is. But the relationship you'll have to have with yourself is, I make a baby step even if I misstep. The intensity dynamic is ultimately, I'll just run as hard as I can, and if I misstep, I'll just stop.
Yeah.
And there's a chance to rewrite your whole story.
Okay. So what is the first step to finding what my 80% is? How do I see it and get used to it and plan it?
Great question. I would look at your list. How many things are on your to-do list for the day?
Today, probably 10 to 12.
Okay. One of two things are happening. Either you're setting way too many goals, or you're setting bad goals. Which one do you think it is?
I feel like I'm setting too many. Like, it looks like I should have time for them, but I never do.
Okay. So I want you to set 3 goals for tomorrow. Now, let me help you with what these goals are. The first is like, I'm striving to complete a big objective. Whether it's uncomfortable or comfortable, doesn't matter. But like, here's something I need to finish, complete by the end of the day.
Right.
Related to work, otherwise, like, put it up there. The second is a baby step towards something that you will not get yield from tomorrow. It will not give you dopamine.
Okay.
It will not aid you, but is important. So that might be, I need to send these prospecting calls out. It doesn't help you anything today. It doesn't feed the drug need, but it moves you forward. And you don't have to do 50, but find your number so that you at least do one. Even if that's all you do tomorrow, just at least do one. When we set goals like that, what ends up happening is we start to build the machine. But the machine can't start at 50. It's like jump starting a car when it's on the highway already and you're going 0 miles an hour and you're trying to like merge into traffic. Like you are in trouble. You got to find a way to get up to speed first.
Right.
Before you merge onto a highway where people are cruising. So a number can change everything about how you feel towards that goal. Again, if that number is 1, then do 1.
I've actually been doing that. I added one thing onto 75 Hard, and 5 days a week I have to contact 10 people a day, either on the agent side or on the real estate investor side. Like I put that extra because I need to start that pattern.
And the resistance to that pattern is going to be, got to do more. Not enough. Not enough, not enough, not enough. We've got to rebuild the relationship you have with your goals and trust. Really trust in you. So that's goal number 2.
Okay.
Goal number 3. I find this to be a really simple one, but this is where the resistance is going to come in. I'll give you some context to this. What I've noticed is that I will set big goals for the year that I have not broken down into how I get to the goal. In real estate in particular, we talk about prospecting or outreach or emails, etc.
Yeah.
But that's a business goal. You've got this 75 hard, so we don't need to rewrite that. But we do need to know the things that are going to get you closer to experiencing some kind of connection to your work. So here's what I want you to do. This is going to be a way to essentially hybridize a lack of connection in the community and a lack of not knowing what direction you want to go in.
Okay.
I want you to make a meaningful connection with one person a day about what they are doing and what they find fulfillment in. And just ask questions.
Doesn't matter who it is.
Does not matter who it is or where they are. What we're trying to do is ground down this like purpose is bigger than life. It's got to be 10 or 20 years. You don't need to know what you need to do for 10 or 20 years. You need to know what to do this month.
Right.
So we're going to ground it down. Hey, what do you find fulfillment in? What I want you to do though in that process is just get consistent with okay, now I'm paying attention to fulfillment. Because fulfillment is granular. It's so small. I get fulfillment out of this. I don't need to know if I'm doing it for 10 or 20 years.
Right.
I would love that chance. I would welcome that chance. And also, that does not change today. Fulfillment is today. Purpose is today. That's all. You can find purpose in being the kit man for a soccer team. You can find just as much fulfillment in packing lunch boxes. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But we've got to get you attuned to that.
To feeling fulfilled on a daily basis, small things.
Correct.
Okay.
So if we just start you having conversations hey, what brings you kind of fulfillment? Go to my favorite dinosaur, the thesaurus, and see if you can find some other words for fulfillment. Because someone might not necessarily know. I talk about that all the time, so it's easy for me to bring up.
Right.
But not everyone is yeah, man, that brings me fulfillment. But it might be I take my kids to their soccer game, or you know what I really love doing? I love making my wife's day or my husband's day, or it could be, one of my favorite things to do is to read a book. You never know.
Right.
But I just want you to start to ask the questions about hey, what is bringing you fulfillment? And go on a quest to figure out and learn other ways to get fulfillment.
Do you suggest, I know doing is much more important in this situation. I can't just think about it all day. Volunteering at different places. I don't know where to find it. I guess that's my problem. I thought about
I get it.
Volunteering at the animal shelter, doing that once every other week. I don't even know. I don't know where to look.
I get it. And Renee, here's what I want to remind you of. These are all attempts to go into I gotta be intense. Let me go to the animal shelter once a month. Think of this you're going on a long bike ride from here to the other side of the country, and every time you pass by a little cafe, you got to stop and just have a conversation, right? The goal, sure, is to get to fulfillment where it's like, now I can make my business, my income, all those things. But first, there has to be a pathway to get there. This is a much simpler pathway. Now, notice that I'm giving you the consistent action, and the immediate thought is, I'm going to go make it more intense. Right?
Yeah.
This is just the allure of it all.
Yeah.
And it's not going to feel like progress until all of a sudden, the stack on stack on stack on stack over multiple repetitions is like, okay, I'm starting to see a trend here. When you zoom out far enough, any business is a lemonade stand.
Right.
And any successful person is a habitual, consistent maker. They will make their habits consistent and they will make consistency their habit.
Right.
That's it. But there has to be a slowness for there to be efficacy. So imagine you got a student. I'm sitting in front of you and I'm just wildly distracted. Well, if the only way you get me to pay attention is by like flailing your arms and like making some big dramatic show in the front, the only way that you're going to teach the class is like super intense.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only way to get to me.
Yeah.
We've got to like retrain you for how to get the productive version of you out of the habit of like, go make it intense, go make it intense, go make it intense. And it will not feel like progress.
Right. Do you just suggest I cut out kind of like, Ben Hardy's book? I stick to the 20, I cut out the 80, and I just like truly focus on like 3 things only every day. And then if I have extra time, I just do what I want. Like, how does that look on a practical implementation?
So I think a couple goals a day would be a great shift for you. After you are done those, sit down and meditate. Sit down and stop. Sit down and pause. Because your nervous system is so wired to like go to the next thing. Look, I get this. Like, again, ask me how I know. If the nervous system is so wired to be like, find it, find it, find it, find it, find it. When you finally sit down, you probably fall asleep.
I get bored.
I'm exhausted. Because there's a belief system here that if I'm not exhausted, I'm not working hard enough. That is not how work works. You can work plenty hard and still have some in the tank.
Right.
There's a guy that just finished a marathon in like 2 hours and like 13 seconds or something. It's a mind-numbing speed.
Right.
It's a mind-numbing speed. That individual on the outside looks like the most intense person.
Right.
He is not. He's the most consistent person. Because we on the outside see the outcome of consistency as intensity. We misappropriate it. We mislabel it. That person must be intense. No, he has been running for decades. You are seeing the result of 1% compounded over decades.
Right.
But let's not mislabel it as intensity.
How do you maintain consistency when it almost feels like there's no payoff to get each task done in your consistent daily routine?
That's because the short game is the only game you're accustomed to playing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I can't see. We'll play. We'll say we'll use volleyball because I can speak to that. If the ball comes over the net, they've just got a ridiculous power hitter that I'm a setter. I was a setter before I started playing doubles, and he drives it straight down the line. And all I look at is my elbows and my thumbs, and I dig the ball up, and it's headed straight to the setter spot. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, my job is done. I'm just going to keep looking at my thumbs like, man, did I do a good job? I don't know. The rest of the game is being played.
Yeah.
So often it's because we get myopic on like, what's the outcome of this action? Again, that's the wiring of someone intense. What's the outcome of my action? I need the outcome right now. I need the dopamine. Tell me this was good. Hey, somebody,
Mm-hmm.
please validate that I made the right choice.
Right.
But consistency plays out over a longer period of time. And the validation is not only internal and intrinsic, but it has much more compounding involved.
Right.
So it's a totally different rewiring. I want you to write this down on your page.
Okay.
And put it later, put it on your mirror, put it somewhere. What if it were easy? Because another word for intense is hard.
Right.
Consistency is easy. So going to the gym today maybe at the uptake of a new habit becomes challenging. No doubt. There's friction. But over time, it doesn't. And it doesn't have to be. It could be easy. You know what I need to do? I need to send 5 emails. Okay, I've done 5 emails. Did it. But again, I'm willing to bet that after 5 emails where it feels like, oh man, I'm getting the groove of this. Okay, I've done it 5 days in a row. It's like, no, I got to do 50 more today because then I'm not successful. And that's the rhetoric that we want to monitor.
So being okay with taking the small steps every day versus making the task so big and feeling the pressure so high that, yes, you might get it done, but in the meantime, like, that's not a quality experience. Like, you can't keep doing that over and over.
And burnout and injury happens at those stretches. That's where athletes get burned. That's where entrepreneurs get burned. That's where agents get burned. Operating at 80% does not feel like you were over fatigued.
No, I can see that. I can picture it happening. I just wonder, how am I going to cut out all the other stuff? Because I have a lot going on.
Of course.
Shocking.
But this is the intensity drug. You don't need a lot going on.
Right.
What you need is one vehicle to pour into day over day over day. Look, I think the lie in personal development is millionaires have 7 streams of income. Here's the lie. That falsely appropriates, like we talked about with the runner, a consistency over intensity. That makes it sound like, I'm going to start 7 this year, yo. I got this. I'm going to start 3 at the same time. No problem.
Right.
No big deal. Watch this. It's mislabeling. There's a sequence to this. You build one thing really strong, get really, really, really good, get really excited, really passionate. This is the discovery quest that I just sent you on. Get really excited about something. Find what others are doing and start asking questions and see if you can discover where your passion meets your skill set. And then you drive it aggressively. You run your 80%, but you say no to all the other stuff. If there's anything that you can take from Ben Hardy's book, it's not, let me try to focus on what really matters and all the different components of multiplying and growing. Just what of those pursuits can you cut? What can you get rid of? What's on that list that, like, you know it ain't working. You're just trying to hold up the veneer that you got a whole lot going on. You don't need a whole lot going on. You need one good thing.
And that's the problem, is I have, like, every week I try to get like 10 different things done for the agent thing, 10 things done for multifamily, my investing. I am like split into many different branches, too many branches.
So think of it this way. All of these things have fed into the narrative that if I'm intense, there will be some kind of outcome. And unfortunately, if you look at your pattern, you now have 4 things you cannot be 100% in. And yet, going 25% in times 5 is over.
Yeah.
It's like recipe for burnout.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form. Here's the harsh reality. There will be a need for you to cut before you can grow. You got weeds in the garden.
Right.
And this entire dialogue about, like, I need to be intense is only supported by the complexity that you've created. Consistency is simple and easy. But some of those things can wait. You don't need to do them right now. The boat is leaking and you're grilling hot dogs. Like, fix the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So assess those things, have an honest conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do on a regular basis, day to day, and start putting in my concentrated effort at 80%? I don't need to be super intense. I don't need crazy pressure to make this, but I'm just going to do it every day. What can I do where if I do it for a month, or I do it for 2 months, or I do it for 3 months, it's going to yield? Anything that you pick, mind you, will work. You just can't pick everything.
And if that part has become harder since I've now have free days, so basically, essentially, like, now I feel like I can fit so much in, and I should be able to fit so much in, but it's not. I can feel like that's part of the spinning, is there's too much listening to other people. Tony Robbins, all my YouTube people I listen to, like podcasts, it's too much outside influence.
Okay. Well, homework number 2, because I gave you so 3 goals, structure to those goals. Homework number 2, stop listening. Cut off the audiobooks, cut off the podcasts. 2 weeks.
That's hard.
I know. But how are you ever going to listen to you? You got so many voices in your head telling you what to do and what not to do. And look, this is all back to the same theme. It's going to feel like there's no stimulus. I'm in a vacuum. What do I do with my time? What do I do with my thoughts? And you'll just have to sit in that for long enough to say, oh, I can hear them now, because it's not Tony Robbins yelling at me. And it's not some schmuck in Idaho telling me that I need to buy multifamily homes like right away because now's the time and commercial leases are coming up. So definitely get triple net leases. Like, we got to find you in the noise. And the intensity is probably a subconscious creation to not have to deal with the silence, so you can figure out who you want to be.
Is there a point at which there's so much silence that it does not become productive? Because I feel like I did that a lot better, like in August, September. But then I just felt like, but now I'm not getting anything done. Like, yes, I have a lot, like I was meditating every day. I was doing all kinds of stuff, but I'm not sure it helped a lot.
Probably because you weren't aware of this particular pattern. Now you can be more attentive to like, okay, I'm shuffling to the far side where it's like, well, now I'm just bored and I don't know what to do. Okay. So now you would introduce at that point, let me find my consistency. But with this like corner that you're in, one being intense that leads to burnout and the other leads to regression, option number 3 is baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step, baby step. That's option number 3. And it isn't nearly as sexy or as painful as regression, sexy as intensity or negative as regression, but it will keep you moving. And ideally, a car, to go back to the very beginning of our conversation, I'm feeling stuck. I'm not doing useful work. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm at home working all day, but I'm not really going anywhere. I'm trying to find my path. Okay. All of that's going to come with consistency. Intensity will not take you there, because intensity looks like spinning wheels and regression looks like I'm feeling stuck. Consistency looks like I'm moving slow. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But you're moving, right? You're progressing. You're actively growing. And you're stepping in at a point in my career that probably looks like, oh shit, a lot of things are going great for Ron. But you haven't seen that I've been doing this for 6 years.
Right.
Without any attention, without anything going on, without any accolade or any praise. That's the consistency. And it doesn't need to take 6 years. That's not my point. My point is that when we find something that aligns with our values, when we find something that feels fulfilling and also takes our skill sets and puts them into active use and utility, then we're able to work towards the monetization of that. You may have to develop the skill or deepen the skill, but you've already got so many skills. Teaching is a very difficult task, and there's a whole lot of skills embedded in that. But the pathway forward is not going to be an over-exaggerated, hyper-intense, full flamethrower effect. It's going to be, can I activate this today? Can I activate it tomorrow? Can I activate it the next day? Because ultimately, at the next level, where these things are your day-to-day, they're just your day-to-day.
I guess to add on slightly, one of my issues is I don't know what I should be focusing on. Like, I keep expecting something to jump out at me like, this is the next big thing. And then I'll know to focus just on that. But I don't know my next thing even.
I get it.
Like next year. I don't know.
It. And you're worried about 10 to 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are on your assignment. Goal number 3 in that first homework assignment is go talk to, you are in explore mode. There's no need to try to be somewhere you're not.
I can do that.
Renee, I'm excited for you. I am.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you. And I'm sure people listening are like, oh my God, this is like totally my story. The journey anything starts with where are you? And the phase you're not in is pursue my passion, build my business, have 17,000 streams of income. That's not the phase that you're in right now. The phase that you're in right now is, hey, I need to discover what matters most to me so that I can learn to make a business out of that. And I need to learn to be consistent. I need to learn to be regular with my actions.
That's
and
true.
Some of that will be narrow wing. So if you want homework number 3, it would be to look at all the things that you're pursuing, multifamily and real estate agent and blah, 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 blah. Put it all on a board and put it in boxes. And if you really want an uncomfortable challenge, however many boxes you have, start a timer, give yourself 2 minutes. Whatever number is up there, cut the list in half. Reset the timer, 2 more minutes, cut the list in half again. 2 more minutes, cut the list in half again. That's what focus looks like. And that exercise will be wildly uncomfortable, but it will also set you free. And I think when you feel it, when you finally just cross those things off and you're like, okay, I'm just going to put these on pause for 3 months.
Right.
Just give me till the end of the quarter. Then you can come back and revisit and hey, do I have the bandwidth to add this back in? But man, the intensity that you're going through is like a self-medication for I don't know what I want yet. Okay, that's great. Let's explore first, but let's start cutting these things out that if they're not working, they're not working.
Yeah, they're not taking me to my ultimate goal. They work in some way, shape, or form. But like I play violin now. But that really isn't going to take me anywhere I need to go. So
I love it.
Probably something I got to cut out.
And when you get there, you can just play violin all you want. But like, let's get there first. Look, I have done so much of this. I want to learn Portuguese. I want to learn piano. I want to learn yoga. I want to so many things. And also, not right now. Can I focus and chop these goals down to one? What is my focus? Then you can work on the consistency because that will breed so much.
I can do this.
I know you can. And you'll be great at it.
Thank you.
You even look a little different.
Do I?
Do you feel a little lighter?
Yeah. Yes. Because I knew I had to do like your steps. I didn't know what they were, but like I felt it. Like I have to do something different. But this gives me like a framework from which to start and then continue. So it's all doable. I just really have to function differently in my head and not keep doing the same thing over and over.
Permission to say no.
Yeah.
I want to give you permission to say no.
Yeah, I definitely need to do that.
So, but what if it were easy somewhere? When you chop down your goals, feel free to send me a note. I would love to know where it takes you.
Okay.
And I'll be here if you need some more support.
Okay. I'll be in contact. I'll show you my little visual. I cross stuff off painfully. Awesome. Thank you.
You're very welcome. This was it was great to see how complex the world is. And I'm really glad we got down to some simple themes.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be crazy all the time.
No. As an agent of chaos, it has been a hard journey to get to a place where I could tolerate, accept, and then love peace. But that journey was largely like yours. Intensity. Wait a minute. What does it look like on the other side? Because then I'm useless and not helpful.
Right.
Okay. Can I learn to tolerate peace? Can I then learn to accept peace? Can I then learn to love it? Can I then learn to look for it? Can I then learn to build it? Like, same thing as consistency. It's the same structure.
Can I ask one quick question? What else do you do for peace besides, for example, meditation?
Like, say no.
Say no. Okay. And cross stuff off.
I say no a lot.
Yeah.
Old me said yes because chaos was the way that I felt, the way that I could feel. New me says no.
That's hard.
Yes, it is.
It brings confrontation a little.
It's confrontation.
Yeah.
Right? Which was one of the first things you brought up. So it all swirls, but I think you're doing a great job. You did great today. When this comes out, listen back to it.
Okay.
Listen back to me. Listen back to you. But feel free to be in touch in the next week or so and just let me know what's coming up.
Sounds good. Good work.
Appreciate you being here, Renee.
Thank you.
You'll probably get some kind of support from listeners who are experiencing similar. If you are a listener and you resonate with what Renee is going through and how brave and courageous she's been today, how can they reach you? How can they find you?
They can Facebook, Renee Bacon, real estate agent, or also Renee Bacon. I have a couple accounts there. On Instagram, Renee_realtor_investor. And then I'm in LinkedIn too as Renee Bacon. So I'm everywhere as an agent.